Man, I swear, every time I try to film, somebody's mowing their grass. Anyways, what is going on, guys? Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be doing the map light modification on the 3rd gen. Now, for those of you who already have a 3rd gen, you probably realize that when your dome light is set to the door switch position, even when you open your doors, your map lights don't come on. They only come on with the on and off switch. Well, I did the LED swap, and now the light coming through here is really harsh, which is good. But unfortunately, since there's not good coverage with the seats here, in front of the seats it's really dark, a lot of shadows, and it's just not ideal. So I've been looking for a way to tie the map lights into the dome light so that they all come on with the door. And I found a lot of stuff for 4th gens, but I didn't find anything for 3rd gens. So I spent the last couple of days investigating. I've pulled a bunch of stuff apart in here. And I actually built a wiring diagram online, so I'm going to show that to you guys in a second, but I just want to show you kind of what's going on in here first, so let's dive into that. Alright, so you guys can see that I've already got some stuff pulled apart here, but this is just a typical on and off switch. So when it's in the off position, you've got an open and you've got 12 volt power coming to it, and then when you want to turn it on, you put it here, the switch goes to ground, and your light comes on. Same is true for this one. Now for your dome light, it's a little different. Let's go take a look at that. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this very well, but your dome light has 3 positions. You got your off position, then you got your on position, and then you've got your door position. And right now I got the door open, so it comes on. When it's in the off position, you've got an open. So there's 12 volts power coming in, but there's nowhere for the power to go, and the light is off. In the on position, it's grounded locally right here at the housing. And then when it's in the door position, the ground is actually attached to a wire that goes to your door switch. So when I close the door, the light turns off. Now your door switch is a normally closed switch, which means when it's not being pressed, it's closed. So everybody knows what this looks like. This is your door switch. When you press it, it's open. And it's normally closed position, which means when nothing is touching it, the circuit is closed and it's got ground. Now the reason that might be a little confusing is because when your door is closed, the switch is open, and then when your door is open, the switch is closed, and if it's in the dome position, the light comes on, push the button, light turns off. So now let's take a look at the diagram I was talking about. What is going on, guys? It's another disgusting Texas day. I think it's gonna rain. You probably hear the thunder. Anyways, I have been battling with the map light modification, and I'm not sure if I included it before this point, but if I did, that is what you do not do if you're trying to do the map light modification. I ended up shorting out a wire because I didn't I didn't connect to the right terminal, and I just went straight to ground. So I'm still doing some research on how to figure that out. I've got a couple parts I'm waiting for on Amazon, but in the meantime, we're going to do a little side quest. Let's take a look at the headlights. As you can see, normal headlights, right? Well, I went ahead and I swapped to LEDs, and now I've lost functionality in my fog lights, and my dash indicators don't come on. So that's part of switching to LEDs. You're going to have some lower resistance and some other weird things that happen. But one of the reasons that happens on these is because the headlights on these are negatively switched, just the same way that the dome light is. It's negatively switched, so it's always got power, and then when you turn the brights on or you turn your headlights on, it goes to ground, the light comes on. So what I've got is a little harness, and I'm going to show that to you now. I picked up this pre-made wiring harness. It's got a couple relays on there, a couple H4 connectors, and basically what this does is this converts the normally ground switched headlight circuitry to power switched. It's from a company called True Mods. It was $12.99, so definitely an easy fix. It's just a little wiring harness, so let's get this wired in. Right now the headlights are off. Now I have my running lights on. These are my little indicator lights. These are just the side lights. those come on. Those are LEDs, no problem. Now I turn the headlights on. These are my low beams. You should be able to see low beams, they're good. They're working the way they're supposed to. They come on, but there's no indicator on the dash. Now turning on my brights, that also works. Brights come on, good to go. Still no indicator on the dash, but they work. I haven't had any flickering issues. But here's the weirdest part. If I have my regular low beams on, and then I turn my fog lights on, now the brights come on, but the fogs don't. So basically the fogs never come on, and the brights come on when you turn on the brights, and also when you turn on the fogs. So I'm hoping that this relay fixes that issue. So basically all this is a little trickery with wiring to switch the factory headlight circuitry to be power to the bulbs instead of ground. So that's basically going to make all of your issues that you'll have with LED headlights go away. You're not going to have to worry about flickering, you're not going to worry about any codes on your dash, you're not going to worry about any lights not working, you're not going to worry about fog light issues. And it's only $12.99, so I'm just going to have to find a place to mount these relays. That's the company, True Mods. They have some good stuff on their website. So it looks to me like there's one plug and there's two jacks. So I think we're just going to be using one of the headlight plugs for the ground signal, and that ground signal is going to trigger this relay, and then it's going to send 12-volt power to the bulbs. So the other one we're probably just going to cap off and not use. Also, it has an inline fuse and it's going to go to ground, so that's good. But anyway, let's throw this thing in there. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is just lay out the harness kind of where I want all the components to go. The instructions say that the relay should be no more than 11 inches away from the positive terminal of the battery, so I'm going to put those over on the driver's side. So this is going to be the plug for the passenger side light. Just going to go over there. I'm going to try to run it right up here underneath this little lip on the radiator support. There's already a little wiring harness there, so I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. And then, yeah, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to mount these. I don't like the idea of screwing into stuff, but there's ground right there that I can slip this into. So yep, should be fairly easy. I mean, it's like the exact perfect size. I got driver side bulb right here, passenger right over there. I'll stick the two relays right under this, and then positive, ground, and then I just gotta find a ground for that side, but looks like it's gonna be pretty easy. They did a good job. Alright, so I just kind of roughed everything in, connected right here, positive, put a ground right here. That was already there. Haven't mounted the relays yet. And then comes across. I actually took it off. I pulled the plug apart and then I ran the wire through that little hole right there, so it would be a little bit cleaner of a look. And the passenger side, you're not going to be able to see that. Anyway, the passenger side plug is not plugged into anything, so I don't have the wire anywhere near fan. Obviously I'm going to zip tie this in a minute, but I just wanted to test it, make sure it works first before I go too crazy with install. And also I kind of goofed this up and I put the ground wire over the harness, so I'm going to have to take that back off and route it underneath. So just keep that in mind when you're roughing all this stuff in. Give you an idea of a better way to do it. Alright guys, moment of truth. Let's take a look-see. Alright. Indicators. Headlights. Brights. And fogs. The fogs come on? Can't tell. Yeah, buddy. And like that, $12.99, we are good to go. What's up, man? Can you hear me?
You got me thinking. The record player.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this thing buttoned up. I think I probably need to get a different lens so that I can zoom in on what I'm doing, because like, yeah, you guys are so far away and I feel terrible. But keep in mind, this isn't a tutorial channel, okay? I'm an idiot, so I'm just trying to figure things out as I go. All right. Turn that around so that can't scratch me one day when I forget that it's there. You ever get scratched by these things, man? It's not as bad as a paper cut, but it's still annoying. This one's gonna get me, I already know it. And boom. Wires are super duper hidden, minus the connectors for the headlight, which is fine with me because I'm gonna be putting new LEDs in here in a couple of weeks when they show up. But yeah, we're good to go. I don't think that's going anywhere. All right guys, so I just quickly wanted to show you this little circuit that I made to help me illustrate how the map light modification was gonna work. This is the way that it looks in the after configuration once I've already included the relays. So basically what we have is, this is your dome light, this is your map light for the passenger, and this is your map light for the driver. Now one thing you'll notice right off the bat is this dome light bulb always has 12 volts available. And that's going to be true no matter what position the switch is in. If you go up there and you put it in the on position, the off position, or the door switch position, and you take a multimeter to it, you'll find that 12 volts is always there. And that's because this bulb is part of a ground switch circuit. And this is what it looks like. Your door switch is a normally closed switch, meaning when it's not being pressed by the door, the switch is closed and it goes to ground and your bulbs come on. You also have a switch that's directly built into the housing, and when you put it in the on position, it grounds locally right at the housing, and then your bulb comes on. Now, the map lights are different. Map lights are power switched. The bulb is attached directly to ground, so it only comes on when you flip the switch and introduce 12 volt power. The difficulty there is this has 12 volt power always available, and this has ground always available. So you can't just run a wire directly from this bulb up to these ones, because if you do that, then you're gonna have 12 volts to ground, and these lights will always be on no matter what you do. And then you can't run it to above the switch, because then you're still gonna have to flip the switch for the lights to come on, and that doesn't work. So basically a relay is the only way to do this. Now the relay in this is actually a negative trigger relay. So normally in order for a relay to trigger, you're gonna introduce power. But in my case, I did it backwards so that it operated in the same way that the dome light operated, which is negatively triggered. So what you have here is your power source, you've got your relay, the coil and the relay, and your switch to ground. And then you also have your map light, and it goes to ground. The cool thing is the 12 volts coming from your battery can be split to power both the coil for the relay and also the switch for the accessory. And that's exactly what I did. So when you open your door and the switch closes, that activates the relay, and then the relay switches and power goes to your bulb. When you close your door, bulb comes back off. But you can still flip the switch on and off, and it's no big deal. So basically what I did is I just brought the power from here to my map lights, and it does the exact same thing. When the door opens, the switch closes, and the relays flip, because now that 12 volts that is going through these relays that is attached to the ground switch circuitry for the dome light activates the relays, and it allows the power to come on for these bulbs right here. The other thing is, the reason I did 2 relays instead of 1 is because I still wanted to be able to control these lights independently. Now if I had just done 1 relay, then the power that is coming from the switch within the relay would go to both bulbs, which means that the bulbs would be then in series. So even if I wasn't using the relay, turning on one light would actually cause both of these bulbs to come on, and I wanted to be able to control them independently. So that's how it works. It's a negatively switched relay, and that's because your dome light is a negatively switched light. It always has power and it's looking for ground. So when you give it ground, the light comes on. Same thing for the relays. They always have power. They're looking for ground. As soon as you give it ground, it activates that switch and it takes power wherever you route it to. So I was able to do that with one relay for the passenger, one relay for the driver, and they both come on at the same time when the door is open. But if you want to operate them independently while you're driving down the road or whatever, and your passenger wants to look at their paper map or something, I don't know who does that, but then they can still operate it independently. So that's how it works. And like I said before, if you guys want to see me make a video on exactly how I built this, please let me know. I have no problem doing that. Just, you know, do it at your own risk, because I know that between the different 4Runners with the sunroofs and without the sunroofs, and the 96 to 99 is a little different than the 2000 to 2002. So let me know. I'll be happy to do it for you. And let's move on to the next part. All right, I pulled off the map light here so you guys can kind of see what's going on. So here you got your two-way switch. This is the off position. I don't know if you guys can tell. That's the off position, and that's the on position. So right on the back you can see this. That's the switch. That's the back of the switch. So that yellow wire is the power wire. No, excuse me, that yellow wire is the ground wire. And then the gray wire is the power wire. So the power wire actually runs all the way around and is connected to the switch on the other side. So there's 12 volts power always available to both of these bulbs. But here there's another terminal, and that one's open. So in the off position you can see here, here, the points are going to be making contact with power and open. So the bulb's not going to come on. And then when you switch it to this position here, now it moves, and now you've got power and ground, and that's when the light bulb comes on. So basically what I've done is I've added two relays, and then they're the micro relays, so they're really thin, and I was able to fit them over on this side. They have to go over on this side because the sunroof motor is over here, so it would impact, and then I wouldn't be able to put this light housing back. So what I did was I got a two-way splice here for the ground, and I ran that ground wire back to the switch terminal on the dome light, and I'll show you guys that in a second. Then I have relay number 1 and relay number 2. This one is for the passenger side, this one is for the driver side. And then this here is basically a little power distributor. I don't know why I said it weird like that. So normally, if you see on this side, you've got a gray wire with red stripes. That's your constant 12 volts. And that is on the common pin there on your switch. Then there's a yellow wire, and that goes in directly into this little silver thing right there, directly into the bulb housing. And then the same was true for this side, but I actually took that power wire off and I ran it through a fuse, and then I ran that fuse to this, which splits the power up 5 ways. Now the reason I needed it to split 5 ways is because I needed to take power back to the switch here so that this would still operate independently. Please ignore my awful soldering job. I'm not good at it, but it worked. I need to take power there, and then I also needed to take power to the coil for the relay, power to the coil for this relay, and then I also needed power for the bulb from this relay and power for the bulb from that relay. So there's 5 different things that need power here. The only other thing going on is there's a wire that I took to each of the bulbs. So that's the reason I needed 2 relays, because if I would have taken one wire from one relay and spliced it and put it between both switches, then that would have made the switches have continuity, and when I turn on one light, they would both come on. And I wanted to prevent that from happening, so 2 relays it is. Now those relays are 10 bucks each. I just used some Bosch relays, and it works in every configuration. When it's in the door position, it comes on. When it's in the on position, it stays on. And then when I flip the switch, they operate independently. And the good thing is I can still open the door without causing any shorts. Now I do have an inline relay here. It's 15 amps, which is the same as the dome light, fused from factory. And now up here, what I've done is I also put an inline fuse in here. Now the reason I did that is because the first time I tried this, I put the wire on the wrong point in this housing. I put it directly to ground and I created a short. So the complexity of the wiring in this vehicle is a little bit more intense than I expected, and I wasn't exactly sure if this was going to play out, so I mostly just did this for safety as I was testing out everything. But since it works, I'm going to leave it exactly how it is. I tried to do my wiring nice and clean. I got shrink tube stuff and got it all in there. And there's just a little circular connector. I don't know if you can see that. Just a little circular connector right there in between the bulb and the contact. So basically what happens is when you flip this switch, all it's doing is changing what happens to this terminal. When it's in the off position, it's open, so nothing happens. When it's in the door position, that terminal gets ground from your door circuitry. And then when it's in the on position, it gets ground right here locally at the housing. I just ran that wire back this way, and then across that way, and then across the front. And you know you can't see it, but it's just hanging down right now because I took the thing out. So I ended up pulling all this stuff apart here, and I originally thought that I would be able to find a ground down here, but it turns out that your door switch doesn't actually ground anything. Your door switch just tells a relay to ground, and then that's what happens. So I don't know where that relay is, or if there's some other voodoo going on, but long story short, everything works the way that I intended it to, and I'm super excited to put this thing back together because I've got it all pulled apart right now. All right, so we just have a couple things left before we're completely done with the LED conversion on the 4Runner. So we've done the headlights, we've done the fogs, we've done the blinkers, we've done the brake lights, the reverse lights, and then all of the interior lights with the exception of the gauge cluster and the climate control. So I technically did do the gauge cluster before, but I wasn't really happy with the Amazon bulbs that I got, so I picked up some from SuperBrightLEDs, so I'm gonna swap those ones in. The only bulb in the whole vehicle that's not going to be LED is going to be the third brake light, because I didn't want to stick a resistor back there and my ABS light was on. And then the other ones are going to be like the ones at the bottom, like the park reverse drive, and then like the brights indicator, because those things are super bright, and if I'm driving at night, I don't want them blasting me in the face. So everything else in the whole car is going to be LED. I'm going to end up removing that front harness that I installed because it created a new issue where the fog lights stay on with the brights, but then when I try to turn off the brights stay on. So I just want to give you guys a quick little update on the wiring harness that I installed for the headlights. Turns out it fixed the first issue that I had, but then it created a new issue. So let's take a look. Right now, lights are off. Daytime running lights, those come on just fine. Headlights, those come on just fine. Brights, those come on just fine. Back to low beams, just fine. Turn on the fogs, just fine. Now this is how I would normally drive. I got my low beams on and I got my fogs on. This is where the problem happens. Turn the brights on, fogs turn off. Turn the brights off, fogs turn on again, but it doesn't go back to low beam, it stays to high beam. And the only way for me to get the high beam to turn off is if I turn off the fogs and then turn the fogs back on. So it's a different issue. Before, my fog lights didn't work at all. Now they work, but the high beams still stay on. I'm gonna switch off the fogs and switch them back on. I think that might be even more annoying than the issue I was having before. So I decided I'm gonna bite the bullet and I'm just gonna get the daggum resistor and that's just what we're gonna have to do. That's the only way so far that I have found actually allows everything to work the way that it should. For the time being, I'm not worried about it. Everything's LED, and we'll finally be done with this part. So let's get this dash pulled apart. So before I pull the dash apart, I just want to show you guys, I've got a little list that I made with all the different bulbs. Hopefully you can see that, but the instrument cluster is going to be number 74 for this because it's a 1999. Climate control I have limited, so it's going to need those Neo bulbs. The ignition light is also 74, and then I've pretty much done all the other lights on here, so I probably could check some of those off. But anyways, if you guys need to know a bulb or something like that, just let me know and I can put it in the comments, or I can send out a little Excel spreadsheet or something like that. I know the forums are a little difficult to navigate sometimes, so let's get that stuff pulled apart. So I've done this a few times, so I don't think I'll miss anything, but you just need a 10 millimeter, and I recommend an extension, makes it a little easier. Got two little Phillips here and here. There's two ribbon cables, one here and one here. And there it is, the green one right in the middle. That's the Amazon LED that I stuck in there. It's got one on the tip and then two on the sides. Funny enough, this one looks almost exactly the same. And I just dripped sweat directly onto this piece of PCB, so hopefully I didn't just ruin it. Now I think these are directional, so make sure you don't button everything up until after you turn it on and give it a test, because you might have to pull them out and swap it up. Okay, so I tested it out and only the one on the passenger side was on. So this one needs to be flipped and this one needs to be flipped. But I turned the potentiometer for the light brightness all the way up and it didn't seem that bright, and I know only one bulb was working, so out of curiosity I'm going to put one of the Amazon LEDs in this side and leave the super bright LEDs in that side, and I'm going to turn it all the way up and I'm going to see if this side looks brighter than that side. Alright, so it looks to me like the one on the right, your speed, is maybe not quite as bright, but it looks to me a little bit whiter, if that makes sense. The left side looks still kind of like a color hue thing going on. I thought it might just be the light reflecting off the PCB in there, but after seeing the super bright LED on the right hand side, that looks to be just ever so slightly clearer, natural white. So even though it's not quite as bright, I'm gonna go with that side because I think it just looks a little bit more crispy. Alright guys, so I was not planning on filming this because I thought that it wasn't that interesting, but I just got this from Amazon. Sorry, I'm blocking the light, it's nighttime. These are mini projector LEDs, but like not real projectors. They're H4 size, they fit right in the headlight housing, and boy, they are freaking bright. I wasn't gonna film it because I thought it was gonna be some like fake news, fake reviews, not bright at all, but look at this. Okay, it's pitch black. Hashtag #MapLightMod. Look at that. Watch this. That's my other LED bulb. Okay. And that's this one. 60 bucks. Projector lens. Okay, look, it has a ridiculously blue cutoff line. It's a pretty intense blue cutoff line. But dude, I do not care. This light is so bright, dude. It's super bright. And the cutoff is sharp. I love it. So I'm gonna do the other one. I'm gonna show you guys, it's a little bit more involved than a normal headlight swap. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. All right, so as you guys can see, I got the whole grill taken off. And that's because you actually have to remove the headlight housings in order to do this. If you look in there, you can see that the little reflector thingy has been removed, and that whole thing is the bulb. So you can see that, there's the bulb there. And then on this side, I haven't done it yet, you've got that little reflector thingy in the middle, and the bulb is behind it. So we actually have to take off the housing and take that thing out. So just take out your halogen bulb or your LED if you've already got one. Ouch. Owie. Now this here, this is the new bulb. It's got a little projector lens on the end of it here. Gives it that nice sharp cutoff. It's pretty beefy. It's got a fan in the back. I know for a lot of people who are getting in deep water, deep mud, they don't particularly care for the fan because these heat sinks can get clogged up or whatever, but I think a little bit of heat dissipation is better than nothing. So the reason we have to remove that reflector on the inside is because this is way too big, and obviously the projector can't do what it's got to do if that thing is in the way. So we got to remove that first, and then we can just boop, slide that right in. It's just a couple of screws on the back. I think my favorite thing about these so far, other than the fact that I'm pleasantly surprised that they're extremely bright, have a nice sharp cutoff. The other thing is, I don't have to stick this in the oven and remove the lens on the front and do all that dilly-dallying. I'm trying to get a full-size projector in there. Well, it looks like I'm gonna have to battle this one too, so. Alright guys, it took me like 30 minutes to get that off, and you can probably see inside the housing I really scratched the ever-living daylights out of it. So my recommendation is to go ahead and remove the heatsink from the back of the bulb. It just unscrews. And I know I've seen some people talk about these heat sinks getting in the way of the boot, but I found it actually fits. It's a little tight, but it fits. Oh my lord. Nothing ever is as easy as it's supposed to be, you know? Alright, so it does have a little disconnect right here. Screws on, just make sure that's screwed in. And then we'll stick the boot on. We are in business. There's a little tiny, I don't know if you'll ever see it on camera, but there is a little tiny slot that this thing slides into, so it only goes one way. Alright, good to go. Let's throw this in. That's what it looks like. So there you have it, guys. I need to adjust the headlights a little bit. They are pointed a little too far downward, so I mean the light cutoff is right in front of me. But they're super bright. I mean, they're not as good as real projectors. You don't have that super wide throw, but I mean, they're very bright, and it's got a clean cutoff line. It's blue, so that's kind of annoying, but I think if I adjust it outward a little bit, then it'll maybe be a little bit less obvious. But yeah, these are night and day better than any other LED halogen replacement bulb I've ever used. This right here, they're not as good as a real projector, but they are way better than regular halogen replacement bulbs. I'm honestly surprised that more people don't make these. I'm gonna adjust these and I'll do an update video, but I'm not gonna do it tonight because Chloe's gonna kill me if I stay in the garage any longer. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow night. So I just want to give you guys a little demonstration of how well lit the inside of the 4Runner is when you do the map light modification. I wish I could show you what it looked like before, but unfortunately I can't flip those lights off. So, but you can see it is much, much brighter in the front seat. I mean, there is no lack of light up here, and that's in the door switch position. So obviously if you close the door and everything goes dark, you can kind of hear the relay click. But it's not a big deal to me at all, because usually it's masked by the sound of the door opening and shutting anyway. Then if I put it in the on position, you'll see they still come on, and I am totally cool with that. But you know, if you turn on these, I know you guys can't see anything right now, you can still turn them on independently. I apologize, I'm filming on my phone because my regular camera cannot do nighttime footage. But while we're in here, let me put this back to the door position. While we're in here, I will show you guys what the LED lighting for the gauge cluster and climate controls looks like. Keep in mind, it's probably going to look a little brighter on camera than it does in real life, but it still looks much, much improved over stock. If I can find the stinking hole. So these lights, hold on. These lights are not LEDs. I didn't swap any of these lights with LEDs. These are all the incandescent bulbs. Have it. That is nice and bright and white. I was thinking about taking the drive button or the drive light out, just because, you know, at night when you're in drive, the light was pretty bright. But now that I have LEDs, it doesn't really stick out like a sore thumb. It used to be, you know, like pretty much like that dim. And then I have a super bright green D, but now I keep these pretty much all the way up. Now these ones, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed per se. I did swap out the LEDs that I had originally put behind the screen. I swapped those out for the super bright LEDs. Now clearly the screen is still yellow. I think that's something that can't be fixed. That's inherent. That's like built into the screen cover, unless you disassemble that and put like one of those negative polarity strips on there or something. That's just the way it's going to look. But I think it looks better than it did before, because now the color is uniform across the screen. I don't have any hot spots or like dim black circles or anything like I did before. You might be able to tell on camera, but the temp spot and this little fan symbol are significantly brighter than the rest. But it is what it is. It's nice and clear. And then obviously I don't care about the radio because we're going to swap that out eventually anyway. But now let's take a drive and let's check out these headlights. So as you can see right off the bat, there is a sharp cutoff line, but it's clearly a blue and purple cutoff line. It's definitely not as awesome as some xenon or HID projectors or LED projectors, but these things project pretty well. They're way better than the LED bulbs that I had before. There's a nice even lighting across the front. I adjusted them up, and now I'm starting to think that I adjusted them a little too high up, but I guess we'll find out while I'm on the road. They do look kind of high. I didn't really gauge with like a specific form of measurement. I just put it up against my garage and made sure that they were level. But these are pretty good. These are pretty good. Let me turn on my brights real quick. Yeah, it $50, not having to destroy your headlight housings, not having to make any modifications really, minus just removing that little center reflector piece. These things do quite well. I'm really happy with them. Obviously, if you're going to have ditch lights and you're going to have a light bar and all that other stuff, then that's cool. But when you're driving on the road at night, you shouldn't be driving with those things on. So having really good headlights is still pretty important, you know, for on-road driving, because let's be honest, as an overlander, you're primarily going to be doing nighttime or long road drives. So you're definitely going to have more time on the highway than you will on the road. That's just the truth of it. So no street lights. You can see it definitely doesn't throw as far as real projectors, but it's quite bright. It's better than the regular bulbs, and it's got a good cutoff. So I'd say for the money, the performance that you're getting out of these things is pretty top tier. I guess time will tell if you know, they fail or if there's anything else going on with that. But as far as right out of the box, they seem to be pretty great. Trying to get out here somewhere once I get out of the neighborhood, show you guys the rest of the lighting. So I'm out here in the middle of new development, and it actually shines a little further than what you can see on camera. Right back there is the end of the road, and that's probably, I want to guess, 120 yards or so. Decently far. You got really good coverage up front here. You can obviously see some reflection from the reflector housings in this area, but it's not that big of a deal. And I don't have the fogs on right this minute, so you know that all this light that you're getting right here is right from the headlights. And it's out there pretty far. That's the low beams. And then this is the interior lighting with the map light modification. Pretty bright in there. Really good lighting. I'm really proud of this one. It took a lot of work, but in my opinion it was worth it. And then high beams, you don't really see much of a difference, to be completely honest with you. That's probably where these things lack. You have a little bit wider spread with the high beams, but I'm willing to bet you I could probably drive with my high beams on and I probably still wouldn't get flashed. It doesn't really seem like I'm getting too much more throw. So, but for daily driving, these things are quite fantastic for the price. I would like to see if anything else like this comes to market. I'd be super happy to try it out. I did see that Auxbeam released an H4 projector bulb that was considered non-destructive, so to speak, and it kind of goes in the same way that these do, but you still have to put the headlight housing in the oven and take off the front lens because it is a regular size projector, but it's got a little attachment for the inside, and it seems to be pretty cool. But I don't know, maybe we'll give that a shot next. I would say overall these are probably an 8 out of 10. The brights are a little underwhelming, but I can't keep saying it over and over again. I think these are great for the money, and if you're looking for an LED headlight upgrade, these are the way to go. Now I did upgrade everything else as well except for the third brake light. The taillights are pretty bright. And then now let me throw my flashers on real quick. So I forgot to mention before, I did have to get the LED flasher relay. That's pretty much the only way I was able to get rid of the hyper flashing. I did buy some like hyper flash resistant, no resistor needed LED blinkers, but that didn't really do anything. So I still needed the flasher relay. It was a little bit difficult to get in there behind the relay panel, but it wasn't impossible. And it's got a little potentiometer on there, so you can flip it around and get it to the desired speed. But these things are quite bright, as you can see. Even with the super bright headlights, there's still plenty of light. So, I mean, especially those back ones, look at that. My reverse lights have little projectors on them. I'm not going to be able to show you that today, but the reverse lights have little projectors on them, and they're basically like 250 lumen flashlights, so backing up is a breeze. But overall, LED upgrade, 100% worth it. The vehicle looks better, feels better, it's safer to drive at night, functionality is great, visibility is great, the feel is much more modern. I love it. Well guys, I think I'm going to take back what I said about the brights, because I was driving up on the back of these houses and I just didn't have anything in the distance for it to really light up, so you couldn't really tell. It was just kind of fading off into the distance, but there you can see they're quite bright. I mean, that house is further away than the end of the road was earlier, and I mean, these are actually better than I thought. So I'm not going to complain about it. Brights are pretty good. Not as good as projectors, but pretty good. Kind of beating a dead horse at this point. You guys get it. Just pick these things up, 60 bucks. You won't regret it. Alright guys, I think we're going to wrap things up here. We've pretty much done all the cosmetic things that I wanted to address from the beginning. So LED conversion was a big one for me, because it really changes the look and feel and functionality of older cars. So I'm glad that I got that knocked out. The map light modification took me forever to figure out how to do, but I got it and it works great, and there's no issues with any other parts of the vehicle. I'm not shorting anything out. Everything works the way it's supposed to. So I'm really excited about that one. At this point, I feel like maybe if I went too far into the cosmetic stuff, I'd start polishing a turd. I did go and get a couple of quotes for paint correction on this thing. First guy, he told me he was going to charge probably about $1,700, but he definitely did not recommend it, because he said it was going to come out looking about the same, and he didn't want to feel like he was stealing my money. So he recommended another guy down the road. I went and talked to that guy, and he told me he could do it for $900, but he said the exact same thing. He said the paint's in really rough shape, the clear coat's not very substantial, and he doesn't want to get in there and burn the paint or anything. So he recommended, if I wanted to do anything with the paint, to just repaint it or bedline it. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to try to do it myself. I'm probably going to just go over the bumper and see if I can do it without screwing it up. And if I can, then I'll move on to the other parts of the car. But outside of that, normally when you buy a vehicle, one of the first things you do after you clean it is you do the maintenance. So I'm going to establish a baseline with this thing. I've got the Carfax and I've seen some of the maintenance that's been done, but I plan on overlanding this thing. You know, that's the purpose of it. So I want it to be comfortable, capable, and reliable. And so I'm going to establish a baseline for maintenance. I'm going to do timing belt, water pump, valve cover gaskets, oil and filter, transmission fluid, differential fluid, transfer case fluid. I don't think I'm going to do a coolant flush, but maybe. We'll see. My coolant looks fine. There's a little tiny bit of a leak somewhere, so I've been pouring some coolant in there anyway. So I think it'll be fine, but we'll take a look at it when we get in there and pull the motor apart. But at the end of the day, I just want the truck to look good. It makes me feel better about fixing it up. So I'm going to work on the paint, I'm going to do the maintenance, and then after that we'll get into the big goodies like the suspension and the wheels and tires. I think at that point it's going to be extremely more comfortable to drive, and it's also going to look a lot better with some different wheels on there. So I'm excited for that, guys. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.